For this slide, the portion that says my bias and how it could influence me, go ahead and think about the personal connections that you might have to Texas, whether you have somebody that you know and love that who lives in Texas, maybe you used to live in Texas. All of those could be personal connections that could influence the way that you view this current event. Especially if you have like a family member or a friend who lives in Texas, you might be emotionally invested and worried about the people and the conditions that they're living in. So, for example, your answer might look like this. My grandparents live in Texas, and it makes me worried about how people are being treated or their general well-being, right? Maybe you don't have a relative or family member or any personal connection to Texas at all. You could have a potential bias as somebody who lives in Minnesota. And here's kind of what I mean by that. On my Facebook feed, I'm friends with people that I graduated from high school with, and they posted memes like this, where it kind of showed how they're a little biased towards this current event. Being from Minnesota, we're used to living through cold temperatures all the time. And so when people say it's really cold in Texas, we're like, yeah, right. Like it gets way colder in Minnesota. So that could be your potential bias if you don't have a personal connection. Being a Minnesotan, living through cold weather all the time might make you judge the actions of Texans, whether it's the actual people or the politicians and how they're handling this crisis. Next thing you're going to do is take some notes, and I'm going to go ahead and give you those notes on Texas's geography, demographics, and energy use. The nice thing about when I give you notes is I bold and underline the important information, and that's the only thing that you need to write down. If you wanted to write down the rest of the stuff, that's absolutely fine, but you don't have to. Just the bolded and underlined information will give you everything you need in order to be successful with this assignment. All right. So Texas is the second biggest state in land size, and you can kind of see that in this map over here, just how big this state is. It's also the second most populous state, so it has a lot of land and a lot of people living on that land. Alaska is the first biggest state, and they have a lot of land, not a whole lot of people living on that land. Texas is kind of seen as a leader in energy in the United States because they just naturally have a lot of energy in the ground that they can extract and use. So oil, natural gas, coal, all of that is just in the ground waiting to be drilled and used in Texas. They've also invested in different types of energy like renewable energy, geothermal energy, and a little bit of nuclear energy. The climate, natural climate in Texas is very, very warm, arid, meaning not a whole lot of rainfall. Some areas do get some rainfall, so they're a little bit more humid where it's warm and some rainfall. So places like Dallas and Houston have this green vegetation because they have that humid climate. If you need more time to type this up on your slide 2, feel free to put the video on pause, push play when you're ready. All right, energy use. So this is important to understand this current event fully. Like I said, they kind of lead the U.S. in energy. They produce 1/5 of our energy, or like the energy that comes from the United States. 1/5 of it comes from Texas. And that just means that most of the oil and natural gas that we have in the United States that's produced in the U.S. comes from Texas. Most of the energy used in Texas is from oil and petroleum. And this industry also uses the most energy. Okay, so it provides the most energy and it also uses the most energy. And that can be kind of confusing, but one way to kind of make sense of it is it's kind of like that saying, you got to spend money to make money. In order to get this energy and use it, they have to use energy. So in order to get it, they have to drill for it, they have to refine it, and then they have to ship it. And doing all that takes energy. So to get that energy, they need to use energy. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you a preview on questions 1 through 4 on this other purple slide. You're going to use the podcast link right here to complete these questions. And they're mostly level 1 questions besides this last one. So remember, level 1 just means the podcast is going to come out and give you the answer. This podcast is about 13 minutes long, and I know that's kind of long, so I went ahead and gave you the times where you can find the answer. So question 1, it's literally going to come out and say the answer around 3 minutes in. So this will kind of help you figure out what parts you really, really need to listen to and what parts you can kind of like relax and casually listen to. Question 4 does not have a time on it because it's a level 2 question. You're going to take the information presented in that podcast to come up with an answer. It's not going to come out and just say, like, here are the factors that contributed to this power outage. You're going to use the answers for 1, 2, and 3 to help you come up with an answer for number 4. If you need help with that, feel free to call or text that Google Voice phone number, or you can always email me or pop into that Google Meets during your scheduled block.